Wait, can you hear anything?
Oh, you don't hear anything?
No.
You couldn't even hear yourself in the headphones. You gotta say something.
Oh yeah, that's it. Well, it was different when it's your first. Like it was my first. Yeah, okay, this is way better.
Okie dokie, welcome folks, I'm Jabby Koei, joined by Steps Brah.
Hey.
What up, brah?
What up?
We're looking at a video from Meme Copium. This is called Why is Marvel's CGI Such a Joke? Or Why is Marvel's CGI is Such a Joke? The question is phrased a little bit clunky, but I get the meaning, the intent. Meme Copium only has less than 8,000 subscribers, but this video popped off on his channel, or her channel, I don't know. This has been a topic of conversation as of late. The last 10 years. I don't know how long it's really been heavily in the zeitgeist, but it really came to a head with She-Hulk. You may disagree about the She-Hulk CGI. How did you feel about it?
It doesn't bother me. It doesn't take me out of the show. It's not great. I definitely am like, okay, it looks a little weird because I know I'm so familiar with her as an actress and her facial movements that I'm like it's not matching totally, but it's not awful.
Gotcha.
Not like pitchfork ready.
Yeah. If you guys haven't already, hit that subscribe button, bell icon, all notifications, vote this up. Let YouTube know you're enjoying what you're watching. Here we go.
Just what the hell is going on with modern CGI? Why is it that apparently visual effects just peaked in 2009 and have been getting worse since then? And it's not only that 13 years later everything just looks like garbage, that garbage has to be used in as many scenes as possible to the point that someone can't even put on their own shoes without having their feet replaced in post. At this point, there is more trash on screen than there is in the ocean. Take a look at this. 2006 Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, might be one of the best examples of CGI done right. There is such love and detail that if you rewatch it, you'll see things that you probably never even noticed on the big screen. Look here, Davy Jones uses his beard tentacles to grab his hat just before the Dutchman submerge, so he doesn't lose it. Did they need to add this detail? No, but they did, because they took pride in what they were doing. 3 years later, James Cameron's Avatar created an entire CGI world that made people want to leave the real one behind, swing through the trees, and ponytail bang, or whatever it is these weird tree people do for fun. Somehow, over the last 13 years, anyone with even a drop of talent has been starved, burnt out, and discarded to the floor by studios, to the point where we have to look at this monstrosity. Honestly, this could have been a rejected monster from The Mummy Returns, a kino that's old enough to order its own drink at this point. The biggest offenders are easily the MCU.
I have a friend that worked on The Force Awakens, and I apologize if you've already heard this. He was super stoked to be working on Star Wars, the comeback Star Wars movie. He said after it was done, he would never work on another Star Wars movie ever again.
Wow.
Because the conditions were so difficult. Like, he had to sleep under his desk because the crunch time was so bad. It sounds like the video game industry. Like, the video game industry crunch time can be really, really rough. With Marvel, I didn't think of it the same way. With Marvel, I didn't assume that the VFX artists were under such pressure. I thought Marvel was just cool with, that's good enough, move on.
Deadlines.
The biggest offenders are easily the MCU and any show on Disney+, which is strange.
Maybe.
Since even their own franchise used to look better than
You didn't get the joke?
Yeah, strange.
Which is straight because Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't ha.
Since even their own franchise used to look better than this, it's almost as if the visual effects are trying to keep pace with the quality of the writing. Audiences are starting to realize it to the point that even their own directors are having to acknowledge it themselves.
Does that look real?
In that particular shot, no, actually.
That moment actually offended a lot of artists.
Dang,
a lot
yeah.
of VFX artists. They were quite incensed by that moment. Like, yo, like, under attack.
It really
Gosh, I
boggles
love
the
him.
mind in the case of the latest piece of trash served up to us like it's the second coming of Green Jesus. Just make her look like Gamora if she isn't going to be radically different from her normal self, instead of this soulless shell, uncanny valley-inducing creature that escaped from 2007's Beowulf. What a sad and terrible future this truly is. At least there are some smaller productions like Love, Death and Robots that seem to care about putting time into their art. And who knows? Avatar 2 is coming out and it looks great so far. Maybe the big studios will watch it and realize their sins and change their ways. Who am I kidding? That's never gonna happen. Thanks, MCU fanboys. This is the future that you chose.
What, you think you can just say a bunch of mean things like that and then take off?
Yes!
That's a good cut in. That was actually a really good cut too, in terms of just the narrative of the video. This feels like a very angry video. Probably got passed around for two reasons. MCU fanboys getting triggered, because it's like, it's just hate, and then people who were totally in agreement, you know? It hits both of those.
I'm on the other side of this, where when I'm watching this kind of content, I'm really not looking in the same lens that I think a lot of people are, in the sense that I'm not looking for things to look fake, right? I'm just riding along, whatever trip they want to take me on, I'm on it, and every now and then I'm like, that took me out. But
Yeah.
I think my lens is is different than most people's, where if I really wanted a critical eye at the animation and the CGI and things, maybe I would think about it like that.
Okay.
But it's like when we did watch Love, Death, and Robots, we did make commentary about how excellent the CGI and animation looked. So I noticed when it looks excellent, but it doesn't really take me away from the story if the story itself I'm invested in.
I'm in half agreement with you. Try to think of like the best way to an analogy for this, right? So my big brother always says, if you allow a habit once, it will stay. You have to nip it in the bud the first time. He's talking about relationships and how things can get toxic really quickly. If you allow a habit to exist, it will continue to exist and just get worse. I think with the Marvel films, it's like the studios go, I think they'll accept that. And then they just keep doing that. And people accept it and they're like, it looks kind of, it's fine. It was fun. That attitude just persists through all the movies. And I think She-Hulk is the stopping point for a lot of people where it's like, that was fine. This has to be better though. I think we're better than this. You have billions of dollars. There's no excuse for it to be this rough. I watched the last episode of She-Hulk and I was like, it looks better here, but I have no idea why. I don't know if it's because they heard people's complaints and they decided to do more render passes on it leading up to that episode, or if it was that was simply the least revised episode. The artist had time to do that one and Disney didn't touch it.
An article came out with one of the people working on the VFX and the CGI for She-Hulk. They were talking about the demands and the time constraints that they're under and how they're not really happy with their work either because they didn't have enough time. Me as a Marvel fan, I'm like, you guys are giving us so much, you can chill a little bit if it means better product. I don't need a back-to-back Marvel show if you want to extend 3 more months of editing and revisions and rendering to make it a better product and make the people who are working on the products feel better about what they're doing.
It's a big corporation, you know, ABG. Not Asian baby girl, always be growing. And that's the whole thing. It's like you have to constantly be pushing that stock. I think that's where it stems from. Like they have to keep generating content for Disney Plus, the subscription, to keep those subscribers, to keep that growth so that they can, you know, appease their constituents, you know, the shareholders. On the one hand, I can see this being a positive that there's such a volume of content because that means more people can enlist in this occupation and get work. And they know that there's going to be work for them. But at the same time, the working conditions aren't fantastic. I think that what you said is great. It's like, yo, you can chill a little bit. Like you're putting out so much, but there is no chill. There is only more. Disney puts out so much every year, and it's like, you think it's a lot now? Just wait.
Yeah, I know. They're just getting started.
People are like, oh, it's the end of the MCU, and you know, naysayers and whatnot. Like, I think they're just getting started. Just wait until like there are really, really like focused Marvel theme areas of Disneyland. It's kind of there, but just wait till like there's, you know how there's Star Wars Land?
Yeah.
Wait until there's Marvel Land.
Yeah.
It's only gonna get bigger from here, in my opinion. Whether we like it or not, whether the quality goes up or not, it's gonna get bigger. And why is because it's just good enough that kids will keep watching it, and that's what counts at the end of the day.
Yeah, it is mainly for the kids in a demographic, and I do think that you're right. There is something for everyone. I feel like if you didn't like Loki, you might have liked Moon Knight. If you don't like She-Hulk, then there's Winter Soldier. He-Hulk, exactly. That's exactly what I was gonna say. You always read my mind. This is no hate. This is a good video, and there was actually really funny points to it, and I'm not saying that it's wrong, but there is this in the MCU fan base and Star Wars fan base, such a critical eye and like anger about something that they don't like.
Yeah.
But it's like, watch something.
There's so much out there. Calm down.
So much.
I mean, at the same time though, like, okay, to what you were saying, you are so invested in the journey, right?
Yeah.
And it's when the writing is not great that we start to notice things more. To a certain degree, I think that's happened with She-Hulk. Like, the writing it's the most stellar I've seen. There are fun moments, don't get me wrong, but I don't love the show. If there was a show I could choose not to go back to, it would be that. I'd rather watch Falcon Say Do Better 8 more times than watch She-Hulk again.
Wow.
What I'm trying to get to is the MCU stories are still captivating, right? I still remember what it was like to be in the theater when Thor showed up with his axe in the middle of the battlefield in Avengers Infinity War and just the audience losing their mind, right? Marvel knows how to build up the hype. There's a little bit of hype culture that's too much, but my point is, because his little thumbnail here reminded me, is the Rings of Power has spent a considerable amount of money to get that CGI right, to get the sets right, the costumes, everything. It looks great. The story is a little bit boring though. You know, I'm invested in it because I love Lord of the Rings and I'm enjoying my journey there, but there's nothing extremely memorable for me about the show so far. It's like, I really like it. It's cool. It's just a tad like, I wish it was better. I'm hoping, I mean, obviously we're still in the
beginning.
Yeah, the infancy of the show. All I'm trying to say is all the CGI in the world isn't making those first 5 episodes remarkable. It's like, that's cool. That CGI looks great. The story isn't leaving an impression on me as much as I was hoping, though.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a fair point. It's hard not to view Rings of Power from that scope where you're watching it thinking, oh my gosh, how much money you spent on each and every one of these episodes.
Yeah.
And you want it to be so good, and it does suck in comparison. I think all of these shows, you know, She-Hulk's coming out at the same time as House of the Dragon, as Rings of Power. You have all of these comparisons to be like, oh, it could look like this, it could be written like this, like, and it makes it harder for, I think, more critical for a viewer.
Yeah. Anyway, we've talked really long about this 2-minute video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Thanks so much for hanging out. I'm Jabby Kawai. This is
Steph's abroad.
Peace out.